Welcome back to the news, everyone. Today's episode is pretty damn fun. Blizzard have actually leaked a few things from Warcraft Direct, so we'll get to take a look at that. It's actually kind of exciting. And also, we've got loads of developments from the patch 11.0.7 PTR, so plenty to talk about. Let's get stuck in. It seems that someone at Blizzard made a mistake because they uploaded Warcraft 2 Remastered Internal Alpha, right? That was uploaded as an entry to battle.net, but they forgot to encrypt the damn thing, which means that we know about it. What we've been able to see are two covers, which look pretty damn nice, a logo and an icon for the BNet client. We've also seen that they've been updating this build, which does suggest that testing is well underway for this project. And if done right, this would be quite something. Warcraft 2 is an excellent game, and it's also where Warcraft, the big sort of fantasy world that we know, full of magic and dragons and wizards and demons, it's where it really started. It's essentially where Chris Metzen begins to have way more influence and sort of starts, well, to chart the creative direction of the whole franchise. It's where loads of modern characters come from, right? Like Illyria, Turalyon, Khadgar. It's the first time that you actually end up going to Draenor and seeing what's going on there. Of course, Lordaeron, that whole area is introduced in this game. It's quite something. Now, in terms of release date, it could turn out that they've just been working on this for ages, like in the background, and maybe it will come out really soon. Other than that, I'd expect maybe mid to late 2025 as a release, rather than a shadow drop at the Warcraft Direct. Now, if you're wondering why it's called Remastered, not Reforged, well, here's your answer. It's StarCraft Remastered. StarCraft Remastered is awesome, right? Now, Warcraft 3 Reforged was pretty much a humongous disaster. I think Blizzard don't want to use the word Reforged again, and if they're using Remastered, it makes us think of StarCraft Remastered and how it was done. So StarCraft Remastered was a fresh coat of paint, optional paint, over the original immaculate game. It looks absolutely fantastic. It was brought up to the modern era visually, also in terms of compatibility, but they didn't do anything else to mess up the game. And rightly so. Why would you take Brood War and cock the whole thing up? Now, unfortunately, the first two Warcraft games, those could actually do with remakes, not just remasters. If they are doing a remaster, I'd hope that they would give it the Brood War treatment, but then also make some gameplay modernizations. Things like just how you select units and lots of changes along those lines. But still, none of us have seen a build. We do not know exactly what this is going to look like, though based on what they did with StarCraft, you could just get an outsourcing partner, a whole big list of 2D assets, have some artists manage it, and, you know, job done. You have Warcraft 2, still looks like Warcraft 2, but way more crispy, way more modern. Think of, say, Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Maybe they'll modernize a few mechanics. Obviously, some sort of more proper project, like remaking it as a proper campaign, just like, say, Warcraft 3, that would be amazing. But Blizzard don't exactly have the RTS talent. At least that's what we think, because there's something bizarre going on with Warcraft 3 as well. Warcraft 3 Reforged may not be a crazy fantasy anymore. You see, back in October, somebody at Blizzard tripped over a curtain and managed to flash us a 0.2 patch for Warcraft 3, right? We actually saw that Warcraft 3 Reforged 2.0 was in testing. Now, the build was quickly reverted back to version 1.36, which is the current version, but come on, they flashed us. We saw what was there. It was a 2.0. So needless to say, the Warcraft 3 community absolutely caught on fire. And man, I feel sorry for those guys. They've had a rough time. So if it's 2.0, that suggests a fresh start. On its own, speculation boomed here. Is this going to be a fixed Reforged? Will it bring all of the missing features back to the way that Warcraft 3 worked before they broke it? Or will it be better? Will it be the Reforged that Blizzard originally sold us on? Obviously, only time will tell. Now, the only other bit of evidence or info that we have here is a survey that went out almost 2 years ago, and parts of that survey do bring the temperature of the room down just a little bit. It specifically asked players what they would want for Reforged going forward, and most of the options in the survey that we saw were online features that Blizzard basically never finished restoring. But three things did stand out, and they were these: Reforged environment artwork, Reforged campaign improvements, and Legacy Warcraft 3 in-game art update. So, odd. I mean, why just environments, not improvements? What do these things mean? Who asked for a Legacy art update? It's sort of hard to know. But the one thing we didn't see was make all the story and content changes that were originally promised. You know, that wasn't there. So it doesn't make me think that we will get Reforged in its originally presented form, where it would have been a genuinely exciting narrative event a proper remake, remaster of Warcraft 3, but in keeping with the Warcraft lore as we understand it now. That would have been amazing, but it does not seem that that's what we're going to get. But that's not all for the rumor mill. There are a few other little shreds, like as an example, World of Warcraft Dark Realm, which does seem like a fascinating, exciting name. We saw an update on BlizzTrack that was adding a new Dark Realm test. That absolutely got people talking, but soon enough we found that it was just a new branch for an existing beta, one that finished a year ago, this time on 11.05 instead of 10.2.5. Now the big internal thing they were testing this time last year was of course Plunderstorm, so it's probably just more testing. Now of course, why test it again if it's just the same thing? If it's another Plunderstorm thing, then the good news is it's not. And that's because rather than a separate realm with separate characters, it actually looks like Blizzard are adding Plunderstorm to the game as a queuable mode just within regular World of Warcraft, rather than a different thing that you click in the login menu, which is pretty cool. Now, it would likely take some testing with existing characters to ensure that no weird items or buffs transfer over, so that's probably what the testing is, which is great news, especially if you're like me and you like Plunderstorm. And I think for a lot of people, doing Plunderstorm from within World of Warcraft on your own character, well, that is promising, that is exciting. And if they've built the framework to do that, then maybe that's also the framework they can use for more big-scale events that could help to keep the game fresh, but in a way that feels organic and within the MMO, rather than a weird time-limited bolt-on. Beyond that then, modern World of Warcraft has only really got 3 known quantities to talk about. There's patch 11.0.7, that could of course get a release date. Patch 11.1 is due an announcement, a time frame, and a public test realm. They could start to tease things beyond that. There will be an 11.1.5, an 11.1.7, and an 11.2. And then, of course, there's the Midnight expansion. Now, we generally would not expect Midnight to be talked about so soon after an expansion release, but the thing that has changed with Blizzard is their release schedules. If they are going to be going for 18-month expansions, that would mean that in 12 months' time, well, we'd already be in the beta for Midnight, and Midnight would probably be coming out in the first or second quarter of calendar year 2026. That means that there's the slimmest chance that Midnight could be talked about, but perhaps they'll save a more proper reveal for sometime next year, at the latest I would say Gamescom, but that really would be cutting it a bit later. Now there is also the long term of what Blizzard are building out, specifically regions like Avalorn that have been teased. And if you remember over at Bellular.games, I've got some good news on that front. The latest Lore Walking podcast episode has just released, and it is diving into all of the deep nerdy lore of the other side of Azeroth and everything that Blizzard is setting up. It's actually more than you may think. There are loads of little scraps that the guys have kept together there, and if you're not a member yet, well, you can join with a free trial link down below. You can check out that episode of the Lore Walking podcast, as well as, of course, every other one and all the other things we do over there, and it's the #1 way that you can support what we do here on YouTube and beyond. Next, then, a few things in Classic where people are expecting quite the blowout. #1, a confirmation of Mists of Pandaria Classic. Then next steps for Season of Discovery, now that it is actually nearing its end, and whatever's coming next for Hardcore and Era, be that, say, fresh servers like they announced for China, or something more. Now on that, we do have a little shred of information, because Sodapoppin delayed the start of his Hardcore guild, OnlyFangs, to November, and he said that he's not allowed to explain why he's made that choice, but he did claim that it's 100% the best thing for everyone, so maybe those fresh servers will be better in ways that we don't necessarily expect. Other than that, who knows? A TV series, a movie, you can only hope, though certainly after Jason Schreier's book, it does look like any projects they had going with Netflix, well, obviously died when the two companies fell out. But okay. Let's talk about the World of Warcraft that we can actually play. A new week, new PTR build, and this week news that you definitely will be able to fly on the Siren Isle. To do so will just take maxing out your ring, and that will only take finishing a series of quests. Basically, run through the Purple Gem marked quests, upgrade your ring to a whopping 639, and you can just take to the skies. You can fly around. However, you can't fly in the Stormy phase. If you're not aware, this zone has got 2 different phases. There's the usual version, which is, well, its normal self, where you will be able to fly, but the Stormy phase is one that is full of elites, it's way more dangerous, and you will not be able to fly in that, which I do think actually makes sense given how they are trying to design that. And I think the idea of having a regular version of the world and then a more risky, more dangerous one full of elites, that is actually quite promising. One of my larger critiques of World of Warcraft is that when you're doing world content, it's just never a challenge whatsoever, even in the slightest. So if this is them trying to cook in that front, to make world content that could be, well, relevant to my character, or really any character that's geared itself using, say, Tier 8 bounty-filled elves, well, that would be an exciting thing for the game. Now, there is some bad news, but it's bad news that I think is good. They promised to do a profession respec, right? That was on the PTR, but they've now announced it's not coming in 11.07. They're actually delaying it, and it's more likely to appear in our next 0.1 patch, which in a way is a shame. But I said it's good news for a reason. I think we would all be happier that they announce a delay and delay a feature rather than push it out in a patch and then have professions break. That would suck for professions, but especially off the back of patch 11.05 and its very rough launch date, it is good to see Blizzard willing to delay a feature so that it actually comes into the game right. So as much as it does seem like bad news, I fully support it. Other than that then, most of the news has been found in data mining. 11.07 has got a ton of new transmogs added. They're actually pretty nice, and most of them are coming from the Siren Isles vendor. That means that, well, your flame-blessed iron farming, which is the new currency, that's going to be something you're doing if you're a collector. There's also some new Warlords of Draenor transmogs that are coming for the WoD Time Walking refresh, and they're mostly recolors of existing WoD sets. And on that front, be sure to check out the Burning Crusade Time Walking vendor because it's now live in-game with TBC the Time Walking, and it's got its new set of items, which does include things like the Amani Warbear, which is pretty nice, some gorgeous low poly weapons if that's kind of your jam as well. And also, if you're a big fan of Garrosh, I know there's many of you, well, good news because there's a new Corcoran Shoulders and Tabard, though of course we do expect that will be something in Mists of Pandaria Time Walking. Still, it's great to see Blizzard actually give the Time Walking vendor some love so that feature, well, just doesn't get stale. And that's all the more relevant now because the Turbulent Timeways event will be returning to the game with 11.07. But okay, that's it for the news. Expect things to be all quiet on the Blizzard front until Wednesday, because Wednesday is Warcraft Direct. We will be live streaming the whole thing. I cannot wait to see what's actually happening next, so that'll be pretty cool. With that said, thanks for watching, and if you want to check out the latest lore walking podcast, you can do so over on Bellular.games right now. All right, take care. See you next time.